Rouen, city of the Seine, city of bridges, wide thoroughfares, ancient narrow lanes, city of history, city of the Circuit of Les Essarts. That was 2 minutes and 15 seconds for the 4.07-mile lap, a front-rank Formula One time. And for the French Grand Prix of 1962, naturally everyone was determined to make as good a time as possible, and everyone was there. One of the UDG Lotuses, like most other British entrants with the exception of BRM, is powered by the latest Coventry Climax V8 engine developing around 180 horsepower. But the car for American Maston Gregory has a V8 BRM engine. And who's that talking to the blonde? Why, Innes Ireland, of course. The fact that the French Grand Prix was this year to be run at Rouen instead of Reims meant a major break with tradition and a considerable achievement by the Automobile Club of Normandy and the organizing committee from the City Fathers. Of course, nobody could afford not to be there. And rolling in from Germany came the Porsche team, making a welcome return after absence since Monte Carlo. Since then, much development work had been put in, and their mounted flat 8-cylinder air-cooled engine now had a plastic fan. Suspension units, too, had received attention, and though a 5-stud wheel hub was retained, it was not considered that Rouen would prove in any way a tire problem. Porsche's senior driver, Joachim Bonnier, is one of the most interesting men in racing. Swedish by birth, international by temperament, he runs an art gallery at Lausanne in Switzerland.
Oh, the layout of the course is beautiful. It's pretty rough, though. It's very bumpy in parts, and I think it'll be very hard on the cars. But as I said, the layout itself is very nice.
The implacable Dan Gurney of California, who started his European racing with BRM, was picked by Baron Huschke von Henstein, the Porsche team manager, for 1962.
Well, it's very rough on suspensions and gear trains and steering. It's a much rougher circuit than it looks like it is. I've got a doggone cold, and I feel like I've already raced. I think towards the end of the race, we may be in pretty good shape.
The circuit lies up in the wooded hills a few miles out of town. It was early July, and between practice sessions, most of which were early in the morning, there was time to wander in the beautiful city of Rouen. Every Saturday, the people pour into the city to do their shopping. But this Saturday, there were those amongst the crowd who had other business on hand. Like those other great French circuits, Reims and Le Mans, Rouen-les-Essarts consists of normal public roads in everyday use except for racing. There was much to be done. The television commentators had to be installed in the normal conditions of squalor reserved for Eurovision. The girls disappear. All was bustle and preparation. But it was Sunday, and in France. Hours before the start, the pits are busy. It's blazing hot, and the tarmac road shimmers between the trees. The driver's briefing. Toto Roche lays the law down, and up. The drivers disperse. The Porsches are wheeled from the paddock. Chief mechanic Tony Robinson leads out the UDT cars. Colin Chapman has a final word with Trevor Taylor. Jack Brabham on the second row of the grid in 2 minutes 16.1. Roy Salvadori and the Lola further back. Second fastest at 2 minutes 15 seconds, Graham Hill, BRM. John Surtees, fifth fastest next to Brabham. Innes Ireland on the outside of the third row. And as the minutes tick down towards the start, the television helicopter looks down. 17 starters, 54 laps, 220 miles. But there's very little red on the grid. The Ferraris are strike-bound at Modena, and Phil Hill is a spectator. Bruce McLaren, third fastest, 2:15.4. And in pole position, Jim Clark at 2:14.8. Behind Bonnier, Ginther's in trouble. Now, let's all keep cool. Quick, give us a lick. And there it is. Richie Ginther's got a dead engine on the BRM, but it's too late to be able to do anything about it now. It's Graham Hill who leads off the line. Coming down to the hairpin, it's Graham Hill from Jim Clark. Graham Hill and the BRM with quite a firm lead on Jim Clark, Bruce McLaren, John Surtees and Jack Brabham. Through the uphill swerves, it's Hill and Clark. But now Surtees is past McLaren. Then Innes Ireland and the Porsche. Richie Ginther is still at the pits, but finally the broken starter lead is fixed and he's away. First lap, 2:28. It's Hill, Surtees and Clark, McLaren, and past the pits accelerating through 130 miles an hour. Richie Ginther sets off in grim and solitary pursuit, 3/4 of a lap behind. At the hairpin, Hill has Surtees on his tail. Jim Clark ahead of McLaren, then Brabham, Gurney and Ireland. Ginther is the only lonely man on the circuit. Graham Hill is being pushed very hard by Surtees. Further back, Salvadori leads to Beaufort and Trevor Taylor. On the straight, the battle for the lead. With Bruce McLaren still fourth behind Clark. Jack Brabham is hanging on. And young Tony Maggs, though well behind McLaren, has never gone better. Hill needs no signal for Surtees, he can see him. And with Clark and McLaren in hot pursuit, this dice is enough to put the breeze off anyone. First casualty into the pits, Joe Siffert of Switzerland, Lotus BRM. And shocking bad luck for Ireland, a broken off tyre valve. 2 out, 15 to go. And 80,000 spectators get their money's worth from the battle for the lead between Graham Hill and John Surtees. Jim Clark draws away a little from Bruce McLaren, who's 4th. Jack Brabham's 5th. Dan Gurney challenging 6th. Someone's off the road, and most unusually, it's Bruce McLaren, whose failure to find 4th gear spun him off. Brabham and Gurney sweep past, and McLaren rejoins 2 places down on the 10th lap. The harder he's pushed, the faster he goes. Graham Hill is down to 2 minutes and 20 seconds, but Surtees is still with him. Clark still 3rd. Jack Brabham's now 4th. It's Dan Gurney 5th. And Maston Gregory with the Lotus BRM 6th. Ahead of Joe Bonnier with the 2nd Porsche. And Tony Maggs with the 2nd Cooper is 8th. Bruce McLaren wisely brings the Cooper in for a check, falling to 11th place. And now poor Jack Brabham is out of the hunt with broken suspension. Graham Hill laps teammate Ginther, but Surtees is still with him and Clark's not too far back. Then on lap 13, John Surtees comes in from his pursuit in 2nd place. He rejoins the race 8th. Graham Hill now finds himself with a 16-second lead over Jim Clark, but the Londoner keeps up the pressure. Clark and the Lotus begin falling back from the leader, though increasing the 17-second lead they have over Gurney and the Porsche. Then out went Maston Gregory when he was lying 4th on the 14th lap, and it became Joe Bonnier's turn to chase his Porsche teammate. Surtees, meantime, had got back to work and climbed steadily back to 5th with the Bowmaker Lola. But now it was Roy Salvadore's turn to come into the pit with ignition problems. However, after consultation with Reg Parnell, he too moved on. Next, Bonnier stopped on lap 22 in search of gears, and Surtees was 4th. Alf Francis looks for Trintignant's gears, while Colin Chapman looks for Trevor Taylor. And here he comes with a 6th Lotus 25. The lap charts became a nightmare as the roughness of the circuit took its toll. Bruce McLaren had meantime got back to 10th. Dan Gurney was going superbly 3rd. And Richie Ginther was now 7th. McLaren and Maggs, running close together, had actually 5 places and a lap between them. De Beaufort on last year's Porsche was 8th. For Trevor Taylor, this was heartbreaking. In his first race in the Lotus 25, he was last of the 12 cars still running. Bruce McLaren, though well down, remained fast and unruffled. Gurney was now very handily placed, but in the Porsche pit, once again von Hanstein was worried. Bonnier's gearbox and engine did not augur well for Gurney's. Maurice Trintignant finally rejoined the race, and a fight, rather surprisingly, broke out in the crowd. But then, Maurice is very popular in France. Past the half distance now, and Graham Hill is well in command. Jim Clark can't catch him unless something odd occurs, and that is exactly what happens. Watch. A mix-up as Hill tries to lap Jack Lewis's Cooper. The Welshman hurries over, but Graham isn't stopping to chat, for Jim Clark has gone past in the lead. Course, suffering archbishops. Look you. Jim Clark now has a 6-second lead on the 30th lap with 24 to go, and he knows the BRM driver will counterattack. Indeed, he does. All this encourages Gurney, of course, and Surtees, who is now 4th. Tony Maggs 5th, and Richie Ginther 6th. While Trevor Taylor works the throttle linkages by hand. Now, sensation in the pits. The new leader is overdue. And there's the Lotus and the end of Jim Clark's hopes. Well may Colin Chapman look glum. The left front suspension unit is broken. They renumber the engine cowl for Trevor Taylor's car. And Jim Clark's chance to snatch the lead in the World Championship table has been missed. It's Graham Hill who's back in the lead by 22 seconds ahead of Gurney's Porsche. Surtees finds himself a remarkable 3rd. Maggs 4th. Ginther is 5th. Hey, am I seeing double? I do believe I am. But there's a shot for you. The sensation of this remarkable race, as Graham Hill stops on lap 41 with broken fuel injection mechanism. The crowd goes wild, but Hill the mechanic gets out to repair the broken stop, which keeps his throttle almost shut. De Beaufort looks like being set for another point. At this rate, he could almost win, but not with Gurney there. Graham Hill restarts to creep to his pit, and the crowd is sympathetic. Now Bonnier's gearbox finally gives up, and Dan Gurney of California sweeps on towards his and Porsche's first Grand Prix victory. Jim Clark takes over the pit signals for Trevor Taylor, and it's a sad day for Team Lotus. Graham Hill displays the stoic courage of the great driver that he is in the moment of defeat. Nothing can touch the Porsche now, for Surtees too is in trouble. Only momentarily did the Lola gain 2nd place from Tony Maggs before a final pit stop. It's the Cooper which is 2nd, and the BRM of Richie Ginther, which started 3/4 of a lap behind, is 3rd. 5th yet again, Bruce McLaren, who quickly dispatches De Beaufort. And now Surtees is threatened by the New Zealander. The masked Trintignant is also after the Dutchman De Beaufort. So to the final 5 laps, virtually laps of honor for Gurney and the Porsche. 20 miles of flashing triumph. Tony Maggs, Cooper 2nd. A consolation prize for BRM is Richie Ginther's third, Bruce McLaren fourth, and Paul Surtees limps home fifth, De Beaufort sixth. And yet again, a final sensation. Trentino and Trevor Taylor, finishing 7th and 8th at the tail of the field, collide at 130 miles an hour because the gendarmerie proved overzealous. Almost miraculously, no one is hurt, but 2 racing cars are needlessly thrown onto the scrap. To lanky, quiet and likeable Dan Gurney, the fruits of victory at 101.38 miles an hour. For his was a drive, and this was a race most worthy the traditions of the French Grand Prix.